We're going to start with a heavy question. What real-world allegories can be drawn out of the fact that the First Order is what came out of the Empire?
Well, I think that, sadly, every story that is told, if you're going to see something in the world, what makes it relevant, every story has some evil, something that you're up against. And I think that this is the case, of course, with this film, without naming anything specific, because the truth is that Lawrence Kasdan and I, who wrote the script together, we didn't strategically set out to say, okay, let's figure out what we can say either geopolitically or socially that is a comment on that. But we knew if we told a story that mattered to us, about characters that we cared about in a world that we felt was authentic, that would happen naturally. George Lucas wrote Star Wars in the shadow of the Vietnam War and in a time of, certainly in cinema and arguably the world, some cynicism and darkness. And Star Wars was a very hopeful story in that time. So we knew that if we were true to our beliefs and our hearts and minds in telling a story about characters that we cared about in a way that felt right for now, it would naturally happen. But of course, there are definitely things you could look at in the world and say, these are forces that we're up against.
Well, on the other side, I think it's really interesting that we didn't end up getting the Republic that we sort of expected after the end of Return of the Jedi with the rebels. Why did you go that way with it?
Well, on the one hand, you did, because it's not to say that the Republic is corrupt and disintegrating. Quite the contrary. On the other hand, the state that this movie, that you find yourself in at the beginning of this film, is one that felt to us, and certainly to Kasdan, who wrote, the last Star Wars film, Episode 6, as well as 5, that this is something that feels like a natural continuum. I think it would be, Star Wars itself says light versus dark, good versus evil, had happened over thousands and thousands of years. It wasn't to say that, it would all stop and go away at the end of Return of the Jedi. The idea of good versus evil and light versus dark was going to continue. So what does that mean? And even decades later, to see that while much, has happened, much is still good, that there is now a new, if I can use the word, force that they have to fight against.